Hello YouTube! Today in the Naughty Librarian I'm going over my least favorite books from 2021. So the good thing about 2021 is that overall I found most of the books I read were pretty good. There were only a few that were like, wow, I am disappointed and a half with. And then some I'm just kind of like, about. So these are the ones that I'm just like, wow, this is bad. By the way, if it's bad for me, doesn't mean it's bad for you. I personally just didn't enjoy these, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're bad books and you should hate them. They're just books I personally didn't care for. Anyways, let's go. Let's talk some shit. The first things first, 3 of my most disappointing reads were all book club picks. We really tried to pick books that we think everyone's gonna like, but it doesn't always work out that way. So first things first, I have The Black Company by Glen Cook. I think my review can just be boiled down to, I hate it, burn it with fire. It's so bad, I hated it. It was like painful to finish reading it. Basically, we're following these guys who are obviously very bad guys. And for a lot of the book, like our main protagonist was just like, oh wow, are we the bad guys? Like they finally figure it out like so late in the book. And it's just like, guys, people on your side of this war were raping children. Like, when did you think you were on team good guy at that point? Like, and that happens on page and like in chapter 2. And it's like, wow, okay, I don't want to read this anymore. And now I'm stuck reading it for a book club. It's just dumb, essentially. Like, I did kind of like there's these 2 wizards who have like fights with each other, like kind of like grumpy wizard fights. I'm like, okay, I can handle grumpy wizard fights. But all these characters are just stupid and reprehensible. I don't even remember the main character's name, but like basically he writes fanfic about the lady who's like this fancy lady with magical powers and stuff, like who they're fighting this war for, and eventually she's like, sup, and he's like, oh my gosh, and then like they hang out for a bit, but like it's stupid. Basically, I don't have any redeeming things to say about the book besides sometimes I like the wizard fights. But overall, it's disgusting and I don't like it. Ew, I hate it, burn it with fire. So there you go. I also have Shadow and Claw, and this is by Wolfe. And basically this is 2 books in one book. I think they're just shorter books or like regular, I don't know. They're like novellas, I guess, 2 novellas and mashed up into a book. This one was kind of a split for the book club. Like I just was not into this whatsoever. Like it was so fucking weird that like I didn't understand anything that was happening. Like I read every single word on this page and I understood 0 of them. And it's like, I speak English, I know how to read it, and I didn't understand anything that was happening for like the whole book, to the point where I'm just like, why am I reading this? I still don't know what's happening. I'm just seeing words, reading them, and knowing nothing. So this one maybe just gave me an existential crisis about myself, but I can't even still tell you what's going on. I think it's like speculative fantasy, and it's like a dying world trope, and then like there's this guy and he's got to do stuff, but like all the stuff he does makes no sense, and like all of the things that are happening make no sense, and like I still don't understand what happened in this book, and I read the whole thing. Did not like, would not read again. I don't think I'd burn it with fire because there's nothing necessarily crazy objectionable in it. It's just I just hated it. Because I don't, it's unintelligible, frankly. And like some people, if you get it and you like it, fantastic for you. Personally, I find it unintelligible and I did not enjoy reading it. I also really did not enjoy Year One by Nora Roberts. And I know, you hear Nora Roberts and you're gasping right now. And I'm there with you. I should like Nora Roberts. But mind you, this is the first Nora Roberts I read, and I don't think it's a good choice. This one is kind of the opposite of Shadow and Claw, where like I understood everything that happened in this book and it still makes no sense. There's like this magical plague that happens and is decimating the world population. So I mean, in 2021, when I read this, it did hit something different because it was written before the pandemic, and then reading a book about a pandemic during a pandemic kind of maybe hits too close to home. But none of anything else made any sense. Like, the magic system is not explained, and not in a way that, like, is on purpose, I feel. Like, where basically the magic system isn't explained in some fantasies because the character that you're following would not think about the magic system because they live in that system. So, like, I can see that as a literary choice in certain instances. However, in this book, no one understands the magic system, so therefore I would think people are trying to make rules for it all the time, and no one does that. They just like, yeah, it's just crazy, la la la, magic and destruction and violence everywhere. And like, it is like kind of horrifically violent at points and like dark, and we follow so many different characters for this book to get to like 2/3 of the way through the book. And like all of those previous stories and characters we were following are now irrelevant. And it's like, why did we waste our time with all of those characters? None of their stories are now relevant whatsoever to the rest of the plot of the book. And going forward, don't think they're going to be relevant again. So it's just like, why did we waste our time? And also, like, nothing makes sense. Like, it's a magical plague. And after the plague went around, like, some people, like, came into magical abilities. But, like, some of them already had magical abilities before the plague, so it's like, did it make them more magical? Or, like, some people just didn't have any magical powers at all, and now all of a sudden they're magical, and like, oh, I'm an elf. Like, some people are just elves now, and it's like, how did they become elves? They had to have elf blood, so, like, who fucked an elf? Like, I don't understand. Like, did elves just exist before this? Where were they? Why are they here now? Like, it hurts my brain. Like, I'm getting upset just talking about it because it makes my brain feel like it's full of gopher holes. Like, I just don't understand. And, like, nothing about the book makes me understand. And so, yeah, I think I gave it, like, 2 stars that are generous. Because occasionally there was some interesting stuff. But, like, overall, it makes no sense. And I understood everything that happened on every page, and it still makes no sense. And a couple more of my disappointing reads were also for drunk classics. And overall, like, I don't usually hate the books I'm reading for drunk classics. Like, sometimes, like, I'm enjoying them, and I'm talking trash sometimes because they deserve it. But, like, do I hate the book? No. These are 2 that I'm just like, I don't like this. I really don't like Lady Chatterley's Lover by D.H. Lawrence. I read this for Smutty September, and it's just way weirder than I thought it was going to be. Everything in this book is just bad sex. And, like, it's written by a man, and people thought it was supposed to be, like, feminist at this time because he's showing, like, a woman having sexual liberation. But it's just so fucking misogynistic the whole time. Like, no, just because you depicted a woman having sex but you don't understand anything about being a woman doesn't make it feminist. It's gross sex. It makes no sense. I don't understand why people are doing the things they're doing, and it's just dumb. And there's a whole scene where they weave flowers into each other's pubic hair. Like, that's a thing that happens in this book. There you go, guys. You have been warned. It's just gross and misogynistic and, like, just bad sex. And, like, it goes nowhere in the end. It just kind of ends. It goes nowhere. It accomplishes nothing. It's just, it is what it is. And I don't think it's very good, honestly. There you go. And I know some people think I'm crazy for hating Little Women. But you know what? I hate Little Women. And here's the thing with it. Does Little Women have a plot? And the answer is no. There is no plot. There isn't. There's not, like, one thing that is the direction for the story, what they're trying to do, what is the point. There is no point. There's no plot here. Now, that being said, do stories need plots? Arguably, no. They don't need one. It could just be a story, and that's what this is a coming-of-age story. These sisters are growing up and changing, and it's just stories about that and, like, how they live their lives and, like, growing up. But it's not a plot. You don't have a character with a goal and, like, things they do to achieve the goal, which is a plot. Personally speaking, I need a plot in a story. Maybe it's just my own ADHD and, like, I can't focus if there's no, like, point going into this? Like, what am I trying to follow? If I don't have anything to follow, my brain just scatters into a million directions. So personally for me, I need a plot in a book, and this one just doesn't have one. It's just stories. I feel like if this was in a different medium, it could have been like kind of wholesome and fun. Like every chapter feels like its own little short story. It almost feels like, you know, like every Sunday you get the newspaper and there's a new installment of Little Women and there's a new story about these girls in their life. And like the mother comes in with a moral of the story at the end and it's like a little ditty every week or something. Like I would think that would work better for what the story is because it's just like little individual stories per chapter. Like, I think it kind of would have been interesting just as it being a serial, you know what I mean? But, yeah, trying to sit through this was just going to make me an alcoholic, so I stopped reading it. I actually DNF'd. And part of me feels like a quitter. Like, I should still try to read this, but frankly, like, I have 2/3 of this book to go. Let me see here. Like, I read a fair amount. I read 160 pages of this. Like, I read a lot. Like, I feel like that's enough of the book before I could quit. But this is it's way longer than I thought. It's like 464 pages. So it's like, do I want to read like another 300 pages of this? And like, fuck no. 0% do I want to do that. Oh my gosh. That's just torture. So I'm not going to do it. And I don't like it. La 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 la. One of my disappointments was sci-fi, and I'm still really disappointed in this one. And that is Persephone Station by Stina Leicht. And I bought it, I'll be honest guys, like look at this cover. The cover is gorgeous, right? And it's a total cover buy. And also like I thought like the story was kind of cool. It's like a space western, kind of like The Mandalorian, Star Wars, that kind of thing. So I was like, okay, like I could get into this. And there are some things in here that are cool. The entire main cast of this book is either like feminine presenting or non-binary or queer. Like it's a completely like interesting cast of characters. And like I read like a fair amount of this. I read over 100 pages of this, right? What page did I get to? Yeah, I read like 123 pages of this book. And I literally had no clue what had happened. It was another one of those where like I read all of the words on all of those pages and I still don't know what was happening. So, like I appreciate the concept here. I appreciate the characters and like what they're trying to do, but it's fucking unreadable. It's unintelligibly written and I can't read it. And I felt like, am I stupid? Is it just me? And then I looked up reviews and I'm like, oh no, it's not just me. A lot of people find this unintelligible. So, A+ for cover art, A+ for concept, like a D for execution. Like, I just really wanted to like this, and like, I DNF'd after 123 pages. I feel if I read 100 pages of anything and hate it, I can stop reading. Like, I used to say, like, I have to read half the book, and then I'm like, you know what? Sometimes I know sooner than that. Like, frankly, sometimes I know immediately I'm not gonna like it, but I give everything at least 100 pages to, like, change my mind, because I feel like that's, like a nice round number. And I gave it its chance, and why would I keep reading? I don't know what just happened for those 123 pages I read. How am I going to read the rest of this book? I still don't know what's happening. So there would be no point in continuing on, but it's pretty. So there's that. All the rest of these disappointments are romances, and we're going to get into them. I kind of low-key hated Second First Impressions by Sally Thorne, which is crazy because I liked her other two books very much. This was a pre-order. This is an auto-buy author, and I bought this, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's turtles. There's turtles in this, and sassy old ladies, and I'm into it. And oh boy, did this just fail on every level. Basically, the whole idea here is there's this girl named Ruthie, right? She's a PK, which is short for preacher's kid. And she has grown up. She's very kind of stuffy. She hangs out with old people all day. She works at a retirement community. And so, you know, she kind of dresses very older and like has very like motherly energy. And in comes Teddy. He's like a bad boy with tattoos and long hair and rides a motorcycle. And he's like the son of the guy who owns the property that the retirement community's on. And they end up getting together for reasons. And If you ask me what the reasons are, I couldn't tell you. Because, like, the chemistry between them is almost non-existent, and I don't understand why on earth they would date each other. Like, he's just, like, kind of a hot mess of a human. Like, he's an adult, but, like a stunted adult, basically. Like, he's like, oh shit, like, adults need blankets and stuff? Like, I don't understand how to be an adult. I don't even have sheets. Like, he didn't know he needed sheets for his bed, and then so she gives him sheets, and the only reason I could think of for why he finds her, like, hot is, like, he has, like, a mad mommy kink. I don't know. And I mean, if you do, then you do. Like, lead into that. But, like, it doesn't really get addressed, and, like, I feel like she mommies him the whole time, and, like, he wants to have sex with her. So it's like, are you trying to have, I don't know. If you start thinking about that more and more, the concept, it just bothers you a lot. And also, like, why on earth would she be into him? Like, I get that she likes taking care of people, but it's just like, what is he offering you? You know, like, I don't get what she's getting out of this relationship. And also, like, it just reads, like, the dialogue and how the characters are and the plot and the whole concept here. It just feels like an episode of that old TV show, Seventh Heaven. Do you remember that show? If not, you can Google that and just, like, if you read, like, the premise of that show, you're like, oh, they made a romance out of that? Ew. And that's, you wouldn't be wrong. I really hated this. I hated it so much, and it had sassy old ladies and turtles. Fuck. Like, I really like the sassy old ladies and the turtles, which is that has nothing to do with the main plot of this book. So, yeah, I was so disappointed in this. Like, it hurt my feelings how much I disliked it. I was so let down in Captives of the Night by Loretta Chase. Like, so let down. Now, I read Lord of Scoundrels by Loretta Chase, and I loved it. I thought it was incredible. I read this book. This is the book that came before it in that series that it's in. And it's so bad. And I'm like, thank God I didn't read this first. If I would have read this first, I would have never read Lord of Scoundrels because this is so bad. This one is Layla and Esmond. And Layla had this reprobate husband. He's gross. He does shit. And he ends up getting killed. He dies in suspicious circumstances. And, you know, everyone blames the wife. And she's like, I actually didn't kill him. Like, he wasn't the best and he was horrible and I didn't like him, but, like, I could have done worse. And, like, frankly, she kind of could have. Like, he is complete reprobate and we don't like him. He whores around town and he's just gross and he gambles and he's just a disgusting person. However, he still does have some morals. He has never hit her. He has never forced himself on her. He doesn't stop her from pursuing things that make her happy. Like, she's an artist. He doesn't try to stop her from doing art. He's just like, you just have to, like, be my wife. Like, he doesn't bother her all that much. Is he terrible? Yeah. But, like, frankly, in the marriages of this era, and some of them were very bad, like, she could have done worse. Like, you know? Like, he isn't, like, the worst husband I've ever seen. That being said, I'm just like, you're trying to make this guy a complete bastard. And, like, he's a terrible person, and he whores around town, and, like, he has mistresses everywhere, he has sex with a lot of prostitutes, and he's a drunk, and a drug addict, and all this kind of stuff, but, like, he didn't do anything to her. Like, he leaves her alone for the most part. Like, I don't get it. And then, you know, he dies, so they have to figure out who killed him, so, you know, Layla doesn't get, like, saddled with the murder. And then you have Esmond, who is, like, kind of like a secret agent-y kind of guy. And he's also just really disrespectful of her, I feel. Because when she's married to this guy, he, like, shamelessly, like, hits on her and flirts with her and stuff, just knowing it's causing problems for her, but he keeps doing it anyway because fuck anybody else's problems. I'm just here to cause them. And I'm supposed to believe that they are destined to be together. And it's just stupid. And I didn't like any of the characters. And I'm not trying to defend her husband, who's also, you know, a drug addict and sleeping with prostitutes all over town. Obviously, bad guy. But, like, they didn't do a good enough job of making him a bad guy. I don't know. It's just, like, half steps here and half steps there. And the relationship between Layla and Esmond is just, it's not very, there's no chemistry there. It's just, disappointment after disappointment, frankly. And it sucks because Lord of Scoundrels in this series, incredible. So I feel like maybe that's just like a fluke in the series, because like I've read other things by Loretta Chase and have not been impressed. Last disappointment here is The Roommate by Rosie Danan. And here's the thing, I went in fully expecting to love this because like so many people I know who have read this have loved it. It has got great reviews on Goodreads, so I was like, yes, it's gonna be smutty, it's gonna be delightful, it's gonna be a rom-com, I'm gonna totally get into this. And you know what? I didn't. I think I read like 6 chapters of this, and then like the thought of having to open this book up again and read more, like just gave me physical pain in my stomach, so I just didn't do it. I DNF'd. And it's just because it's stupid. Like I said, I read like 6 chapters of it, and then like I kind of skimmed ahead. I'm like, okay, this is really bad. Maybe it picks up. So I skimmed ahead, see if like I saw any scenes off the top of the skim, like, okay, like this scene like looks kind of good. I'll keep going. And you know what? In my skim, I found no scenes that compelled me forward. This is Clara and Josh, and the relationship and the premise of this book is stupid. So mind you, these characters are pushing 30. They are in their late 20s at the very least. They're pushing 30 years old. They're adults. And like the situations they find themselves in make no sense for a grown adult to be in. Like if they were like 23, 22, 23, like maybe you just got out of college and you're still basically a kid, like I'm like, okay, like yeah, you're young and you're easily tricked into things, like I get it, but it's like, you're almost 30. You're a bit too old to be getting tricked into these things. Long story short, they end up being roommates because stupid shit happens and they end up being roommates. And Clara is like a New England socialite, she's very like uptight kind of, and Josh is a porn star. Wow, opposites attract, I guess, but like frankly, I do not understand why either of them would like the other. Like I kind of get why Clara might like Josh because he's actually a really nice guy and also probably hung like a horse, let's be honest, he does porn. So for that appeal, like I could see why maybe she would be attracted to him. But like I don't understand a single reason why Josh would be into Clara unless he's like that other guy from Second First Impressions and has a mommy kink, because maybe that's it. Because she is just very uptight. She gives him nothing emotionally. It's just, there's no appeal that I see for them to be together. And the circumstances of the book make no sense. The words they're using don't make any sense. Like at one point he uses the phrase, tossed your cookies. And like, these characters are supposed to be millennials, and I myself, as a millennial, have never used the phrase toss your cookies before. I remember hearing that for the last time, like said by teenagers in the early 90s. So maybe that's like a Gen X thing, I don't know, but like that's the only like context I have for that phrase. That like teenagers, when I was a child, said that. So like me and any millennial I've ever known has never used the phrase toss your cookies. So like nothing makes sense, not even the dialogue. So like I couldn't with it. I just can't. All right, so that was all of my disappointments for 2021. Luckily, it's a small list. Like, you know, like I could have had a lot more disappointing books on it. So like I feel good that it was a relatively small list of books that like really, really disappointed me. Let me know in the comments down below, what was your least favorite book you read in 2021? Or maybe give me a couple. I don't know. What was like super disappointing for you? Let me know in the comments down below. If you like this video, make sure you give it a like. And if you want to see more videos, make sure you subscribe. And I'll see you guys soon. Bye!